Hello, my name is Elder Luke, and I would like to share with you this most amazing episode of Raw. Welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast. I'm Luke Owen, DAD. I'm joined by the Professor of the Truth, your Jam That Champion, Dan Layton. Please do press the subscribe button if this is your first time here. Give us a little thumbs up as well as we review Monday Night Raw. If you're watching this on demand, leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode. And if you're watching live, get in your alpha chats to wrestle.com/support. We'll read out all of them above the $5 amount.
I really appreciated you speaking my language just now in terms of musicals. But I do hope that you warmed up before that reach.
Oh, because okay. So here's what happened.
Okay.
I'm now picking up what you're putting down. Here's what happened. Tempest was playing a video game in the office, and I heard within that video game a bing bong.
Oh, you did. You mentioned it,
and I was like, did anyone else just hear a bing bong, like a little ding dong? And I was like, yeah, it was Tempest's game. And so I just went, hello.
I see.
And no one reacted. And so I thought, do you know what I'll do? I'll do it live on the air, and it will be appreciated by more people.
And how many more people appreciated it, do you think?
Get that nonsense out of here.
There you go.
Loved it. Book of Mormon. Yep, I mean, about 2 people appreciated it.
You've been acknowledged.
I've been acknowledged.
That's all you needed.
More than there was in The Office.
That's very true.
But this was a very, very good episode of Raw, and we're going to review that episode in full. I suppose what we'll do is kind of talk about the opening. Probably, we'll do the opening and closing. Because I feel like that sort of encompasses my feelings on this episode of Monday Night Raw. We're live. Thank you.
Who was that?
I don't even know. I think going by the trousers, it was Sullivan. Anyway, we'll talk about the opening. We'll talk about the closing because I feel like that encompasses my feelings on Raw. So here's some fun, interesting facts for you, Dan. This is the highest rated Raw on Cage Match of the year.
Okay.
It's in fact the highest rated Raw on Cage Match of the Triple H era.
Wow.
The closest Monday Night Raw that's come to this, because it scored a 9.11 on Cage Match.
Goodness me. And do they is it like a broad range of people?
It's people who use Cage Match essentially. So it's a user
No,
generated.
I mean like have lots of people, or is it like one person gave it 9.11 and so as a result it's
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
No, I was looking at it's like 10's best episode of the year, and a couple of 7's being like not a great episode, but it was lifted by pay-per-view quality, like in-ring stuff. And that's broad range of opinions within. So yeah, this is 9.11. It's higher than Collision.
Goodness.
And that was the highest rated. I think the second highest rated of Collision of this year. All of a sudden really got into like, I feel like it's the IMDb.
You become the stats man.
So it's the IMDb of pro wrestling. So it's not exactly like, an actual barometer of it's not science.
Since I've been doing more days in the office, I have started visiting Cage Match a lot more than I ever have in my life.
Yeah.
Like I've been aware of it, but yeah.
Someone just told me to not rap again. I wouldn't say that was a rap.
No, that was a song.
That was me doing musical theatre.
It wasn't. They weren't notes, but it wasn't a rap.
No, absolutely not. No. But anywho, the closest that an episode of Raw has come was 8.04, and that was the episode with the Nakamura heel turn.
Oh, okay, so quite recent.
Quite recent. In fact, I thought, well, surely the episode with Gunther and Gable.
Yeah.
7.46.
Goodness me. Yeah.
So, and this is the highest rated Raw.
Well,
it's actually the highest rated Raw in a long time. Looking at sort of like overall, and that dates back to sort of like Eddie Guerrero tribute show eras of like Monday Night Raw ratings and stuff. This has got a huge whopping rating on it because the discourse online is that people friggin' loved this episode.
Well, I can see why. It's not without flaws. Like, I'll talk about them, including one. And here's a lead for the show. One of the most chronic nitpicks I've ever had in my life.
Uh-oh.
To the point, if I acknowledge it's a nitpick, that means it's a nitpick, and we'll get there. But there's legitimate criticism elsewhere. There's things that I think weren't necessarily as handled very well. But the stuff that I think that kind of 7.0, 8.0 rating of like, a decent, enjoyable episode of Raw with some really banging wrestling in there is a proper crisp summation of the whole thing. And it's really, really interesting that we've had a few weeks in a row now where we've quite like gone like, yeah, it was decent. We enjoyed this, didn't enjoy the. thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. And a lot of it has been mid to less good. You know, the mids have had it. So I'm really interested to see when we get to that point at the end of the show how the people responded to this, because I can see why they would have loved it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a hot crowd.
Yes,
really hot crowd in the Toyota.
Which follows on from the conversation we had yesterday on when it pertains to AEW crowds.
So when I was looking at this show, I sat down this morning. Can I just bring your
am I
chair
a bit
into
far
ever
away?
so slightly, so the framing's a bit nicer.
Did you just miss me?
Oh, well, there's that as well.
Yeah.
Closeness is, friendship. And so I sat down 6 a.m. this morning to watch my episode of Raw. I talked about this in the edited review. My favourite curry takeaway is a tikka paneer dansak.
You said that earlier on, but you said a tikka dansak, and I was in the middle of writing a list of Japanese wrestlers, and I thought that was someone I didn't know. I was because I just wasn't paying attention to what you said, and then you followed through with, if I may, a brilliant metaphor.
Thank you.
For those who are unaware, a dansak is
a curry.
What kind of curry? Are we talking spicy?
It's kind of the perfect blend, I think, of sweet and sourness.
Ooh.
It's got the right amount of heat. I like a spicy curry. I love a vindaloo and all that sort of stuff. But what I like about a dansak is that it's got, as Greg Wallace would say, bags of flavour. And there's lentils in there as well.
Yeah,
delicious. Love me a dansak.
I like a korma. Who's surprised?
Yeah, because you're. I won't go into it.
A Wally Pop.
You want a Wally Pop.
Yeah.
So I like a paneer tikka dansak.
Yeah, lovely.
On a Friday night with pilau rice, some Bombay aloo, poppadoms, because I like to use poppadoms to eat my curry with.
Yeah.
Bit of mango chutney. I don't need the mango chutney, but if it's there, it's a nice little addition, right? If I had that, for me, it's the perfect meal. It's a perfect Friday night takeaway meal. If I had it every Friday, after a while, I'd be like, this is still good.
Yeah.
Because it's delicious. But I'm not like, oh man, I can't wait to have another one of those. If I then have it for every meal, while it is always delicious, I am going to be like, could actually quite fancy something new. Maybe a Balti or something like that. Even just like a different flavor profile. So I sat down to watch Raw this morning, and a waiter came over and said, paneer tikka dansak.
Yeah.
Because the main event was Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Judgment Day. And I was like, yeah, fine. I'll eat my paneer tikka dansak. I'll spoon on my rice. I'll spoon on my. Oh, is it a Cody Rhodes promo instructed by the Judgment Day? Is it? It's my Bombay aloo. I'll put that on. Oh, is that a brawl with Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Jey Uso? Yeah, there's some mango chutney on the side there. I'm sure that I'll enjoy this a lot. But then throughout the show, I'll be like, oh, you got a little chana masala over there. Do you mind if I put some of that on my plate? Just think a little bit different. Oh, have you got samosas? Do you know what? Actually, I do fancy some samosas, actually. I'll add some samosas to my plate. And then before I knew it, I was having a whole new meal. And there was this big, Attitude Era schmoz in the main event. And at the end of it, I was like, that's the best paneer tikka dansak I've had in ages.
And in this metaphor, would you argue that JD McDonough is the little bag of salad that you, that you get?
So because my wife will get paneer shashlik that comes with the salad.
Okay, now you're just making shit up. Sorry, I said a bad word.
She'll get paneer tikka shashlik and stuff, and that will come with a bag of salad. It usually comes with a big chunk of cucumber in it. My wife doesn't like cucumbers, so I'm like, I'll have that. That's me veg.
Yeah.
That's me salad for the thing. So yeah, JD McDonough with his massive head is that big chunk of cucumber that comes in a salad bag. And I was like, oh, you've got a little lime pickle over there, have you? Actually, I fancy a bit of lime pickle.
Yeah.
Or have you got a Peshwari naan? And I had a great time with this episode. Just because a lot of people are talking about this, I'm going to quickly double check, but I believe the news is official. That Jade Cargill has signed with WWE.
Oh, they made it. Have they legitimated it?
Oh, I don't know. Everyone in the chat. There you go. Breaking. Jade Cargill has signed a multi-year contract with WWE.
Oh,
as
wow.
first reported by ESPN / actually Fightful Select.
Now that is massive. Because they're posting it to their main profile and they're calling her Jade Cargill. This is a full acknowledgement of this person as pre-existing.
In fairness, that is tagging her on Twitter, where it's Jade Cargill.
What does it say on that picture there?
Oh, it says Jade Cargill there. But they can change her name.
They can absolutely change her name.
They announced they'd signed Kana, but then changed her name.
That's true. And they had a lovely PowerPoint graphic.
Yeah.
They changed it. No, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true.
Jade Cargill ruined my excellent metaphor because no one was listening to my excellent metaphor.
Well, the metaphor. Well, thankfully, it's there for posterity. When in 2 weeks' time, Isla Dawn and Alba Fire come out and they do something with a Pinhead dance act, that you can tweet that. Unfortunately, there's no women's tag stuff on this show, so I had to fit it in somewhere. No, but so the Jade Cargill news I find really interesting because they're being very vocal about bringing it. They're treating her like a top star already. They're making a point of breaking the news with ESPN. That's quite massive. Very intriguing. Very interested to see where that's going.
First reported by Fightful Select, but
but you can't acknowledge them, can you? You have to.
Well, that's I think, Dan, part of the problem.
Not the dirt sheets, brother. Anyway, yeah. Let's get back to what we were talking about. Curry. It's a good metaphor though, because Triple H is very much in his hyperfixate era, where at the moment he's hyperfixating on some combination of Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and Cody, and the Judgment Day.
The program has been on cruise control since SummerSlam.
Yes, basically. And I kind of have, when I was looking at the, it got to the main event. What was the thing I wrote down? And I took a break before I went to watch the main event, but I wrote down, I feel like I can just skip this because I've seen it so many times. Like, I sat down and I said to Pete, I'm not interested. Like, I enjoyed bits and bobs through the show, but I've seen this match. And as much as I've given them credit through the course of the evening, and you'll see it when we do the full breakdown of the show, I was just like, well, okay. And then Pete was like, I'll be interested to see how you feel at the end. And sure enough, I, through the course of the match, was fully worked, bro. Like, I was so in. And it's this thing of like, they're just really good wrestlers. And sometimes really good wrestlers don't always land in. I mean, look at Seth Rollins and Shinsuke, right? Where on a paper, Shinsuke versus Rollins is a 5-star match, but for some reason it didn't click. Here, everything clicked. It was frenetic. It was chaotic. I really enjoyed it. At one point, I fully thought that Sami and Kevin were getting the belts back. Like, I believed it. I bought into the hype. So I have to give it credit,
They'd set up, I think, quite well throughout the show, 3 potential endings for this. And that's one of the things I really liked about the main event is that the show posited 3 possible outcomes and finishes for you to be like, I wonder which one of these it'll be. So it could have been JD McDonough, because Damian Priest told him, you're not in the Judgment Day, stop trying to help out. And he'd got them all beaten up earlier in the show. In fact, you could say 4. Is he going to show up and he's actually going to end up costing them the tag titles? Or is he going to show up and help them to try to try and acclimate himself into the group? B, Jey Uso is not trusted by Sami Zayn, not trusted by Kevin Owens, and he had a promo segment earlier in the show where they were like, what's your thoughts on the main event? It's like, well, I'll be keeping my eyes on the main event, keeping my eyes on the Judgment Day's interference, and if I see anything untoward, I'm going to get involved. So that sets up the idea of, and I even wrote my notes, I bet he was going to cost them the tag titles because he's going to try and help and it's going to backfire. Or B, he actually does help them stop, and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens win. So there was all of these various different red herring finishes that the show had told you these are possibilities. So it created this incredibly chaotic, as an Attitude Era-esque main event. Big schmoz type deal. You had a killer match leading into it. Then all of a sudden, here comes Dominic Mysterio. Oh, here comes Jey Uso. Oh, here comes JD McDonough. Here comes Cody Rhodes. But like everyone's just brawling around ringside. Everyone's hitting big moves. Blue Thunder Bomb, the Haluva kick, and you're like, oh man, I think they might win this here. And then JD McDonough clocks Sami Zayn with the title belts.
Brilliantly framed, by the way.
Brilliantly framed. They used the corner cam to capture it.
Yeah, and he just sort of pops up and has a dink, and then off he goes. And Sami Zayn falls down. Priest slow into the cover to eke out that drama. And I was like, oh, this is a kick out. They've given him time to be able to kick out. So again, to the point where I was shocked when he counts the 3. And
then they won.
Yeah.
And the Judgment Day won, and they retained. And then a brawl continued. I probably didn't need the brawl afterwards, but it was trying to add to that chaotic nature. And I've seen a lot of people praise it, be like, oh, this is more great build towards War Games. And I do want to remind everyone, we are 2 months away from War Games.
So this is...
Yes, we are building to War Games, but it is also 2 months away. That is 8 episodes of Monday Night Raw before we get there.
This was my thing, which is where like we're both Northerners. You've had your curry. I'm here with my chips and my piss. I'm about to piss all over them.
Okay, please do.
Because like the match itself was really, really great. It was a dirty finish. So Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn get another shot at those titles somewhere down the line. You have to assume all of it. The 4 of them, they had the brawl in the beginning, which I really liked as well. Like the opening of the show when there was a moment where Priest is like, they're like trying to negotiate, do we attack now because with the numbers game where we go, we'll back off. And then in the end, JD comes out with the chairs, so him and Finn go in all guns blazing.
And Dom just running, because
Dom
just follows the pack.
I'm going to follow. And then Priest is like, oh, for crap. So then it ends up with Priest being on his own. That was a really effective segment, I thought.
Well done.
But the whole thing, I couldn't help the entire time I'm looking at it going, War Games, War Games, War Games. And then here at the end, yes, it's War Games, but I wrote down in all caps, it's 2 months till War Games. And the problem with that is I have been looking for a lot of structure in my life, and I like a routine. I think as humans, we need that. This is too much structure and routine to get the same match every single week, to get the same angle every single week. I don't think anything should take away from the skill on show and the very effective plotting throughout the show of, like you say, all the various red herring endings, all the various finishes, really great performance. And when we do the full show rundown, there are several moments where we're like, this was really good, this was really good, this was really good. Let's not take away from that. But it is a question of, okay, so we're not finished and we're going to do this again.
Can I pump our brakes ever so slightly and posit an idea?
You like to posit.
We don't know it's War Games.
That's true. That's very true.
We have laid out our jump to conclusions mat, and we have looked and we thought, War Games.
Survivor Series,
because that's what we had last year. This could just be a match on Fastlane.
Yes, that's true.
It just could be an 8-man tag on Fastlane. And it's not a War Games match at all. We're not building this for the next 2 months. We're just going to do an 8-man tag at Fastlane.
Are you suggesting that we should let it play out?
I think I am.
Goodness gracious. How the shoe is on the other table, which is turned.
But it's just, I'm just putting forward the idea. We're all, only because we were there being like, it's 2 months to War Games.
Yes, you are right.
I did it on the edited news as well, but I just had a thought then. I was like, oh, we don't know it's War Games. We're all assuming because it's 4-on-4.
Yeah,
but
and Survivor Series.
And Survivor Series is, but it's like, it might not be.
Yeah.
It could just be a Fastlane match. Could be a Raw main event in 3 weeks' time. We don't know. But what I do know is that this was I was genuinely went into this episode a little bit down.
Yeah.
And it's not down because I'm like, oh, this show's going to be awful, because this show's never bad. Triple H shows have not been bad. We've not had a bad Triple H episode of Raw and or SmackDown. SmackDown's a bit iffier, but we haven't had a bad episode of Raw. But we have just had a lot of fine.
Right.
And, if you just keep getting fine, after a while it becomes a bit of a drag. Like, it becomes a bit of a slog to watch. You're like, okay, here's another fine segment. Here's another fine match. Here's another, oh, actually, that was an incredible match. Here's another fine match. There's just, like, even on that Gunther Gable episode, which was, 4.5-star match I was voted in the Wrestling Observer. The rest of the show was just like, yeah, it's fine. Like, it's absolutely fine. So when this episode was going on, the longer it went, and like there was the Kofi and Drew match, which was awesome. The Dragon Lee match was absolutely awesome. I really liked the MizTV segment. I thought that was absolutely superb. By all 4 men involved. And there's some other stuff on the show that wasn't like great.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, the Bronson Reed Notice match was great. Was great. I wish they'd stopped running with Sept Imperium. And 4.5 minutes of women's wrestling on a 3-hour show.
Yeah, and that covers 2 matches.
And that does cover 2 matches. Is no good. And I think that Tegan Knox segment was an abject failure. Well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that in a little bit. But overall, I really do think, and it's not just, the science of cagematch.net is telling me that this was the best Raw of the year. I think this is not just the best. I think this is probably the best episode of Raw. And that is because the show has been fine since WrestleMania.
Yeah, when you have had a series of fine and then you get something that's really well put together, there was a lot of this show that felt like a response, that felt like an answer, almost in a way to some critique and some frustrations that I'm probably reading too far into certain things, but there were almost some things that happened that almost felt like direct responses to plans that we know have been changed. And that, to me, just when I was watching it, I was very aware of all those things, and I was also very aware of my own sort of prejudices, because we review this every week. There are people who sort of say, just don't enjoy the wrestling. We kind of don't get to, because we are thinking about not just this, but every show that we watch and the business as a whole. We do granular analysis. It's our thing.
We cannot passively watch it.
No, we are actively watching it, and also, we have a certain set of standards that we want to see met, because we have a passion for this thing, which is not to say that those who don't want to watch it on that level don't have a passion for that thing. They're just different levels. So when we do watch it on that level every single week, something like this comes along that, even within our sort of prejudices, our frustrations, sings. And that's a really nice thing to appreciate and take in as it's happening. So there was there was a lot on this episode of Raw that I really, really liked.
I wasn't sure if it was just, the hot crowd really added to this, which is, certainly potentially possible. Like, because this was when I was checking the people's thoughts about this on the old Twitter machine, everyone was like, "Oh wow, they played in front of an AEW crowd. Like, how did this happen?" And it really did, honestly. And that feels like a slight dig on WWE crowds, but this was a crowd that was popping for Tegan Nox. This was a crowd.
So I have notes about that. Yeah.
That knew who Tegan Nox were. This was actually an audience of wrestling fans, and I'm trying not to differentiate between wrestling fans and WWE
I told you
fans.
Yesterday, I'm sorry.
No, but quite rightly so. But Tegan Nox isn't on TV.
Yeah.
So a casual fan isn't going to know who Tegan Nox is. But this was a crowd that 100% knew who Tegan Nox was. So I don't know if it was just the hot crowd really helped out, because this crowd were hot for everything on this show, bar Nia Jax, or it's a response to, we've got a lot of negative press around us at the moment because of the merger and the firings that happened last week. So let's just put on a really good show and make them forget about that. I mean, as I said, I don't know. It could just be they had a good week.
Yeah, this is it.
It could just be they had a good week.
And I do think it's the reason that we're focusing on it so much is that 9.27 rating is quite high compared, because the mods have popped in our little doc here that the average rating for every Raw so far this year before last night was 6.9. And that's one metric. Like the real metric.
It's not scientific.
No, the real metric that counts with any subjective medium, and wrestling is an art form, is how you feel when you watch it. And honestly, there is no wrong answer. I feel passionately about that when it comes to art. But also, I just think, I don't know. I think they had a good week, and I think there's a direct line between whose fingerprints were all over this show and the more effective weeks, which is not to say this was a Triple H show. Like, is to say this is a Triple H show, not to say that Triple H hasn't had bad weeks, is what I'm trying to say. But this one felt like a response in a lot of ways, perhaps to that, perhaps to frustrations that have been felt, the mere presence of JD McDonough on the show after a few weeks of none. And to me,
they mentioned the SmackDown draft.
They mentioned the draft. They mentioned Tegan Nox. There was a lot of threads that were picked up that were some on television, some off television. A lot of it felt like a response, almost as if to say, "No, I'm going to show new big boss Ari Emanuel the reason that I was given this job."
And actually, I mean, there's maybe we'll get into this in a little bit, but they were hammering home early doors. This was a sold out building,
and it looked it,
and they said it, and they showed it as well. Like, it's
as we spoke about yesterday.
With AEW's struggling ticket sales.
Yeah,
this highlighting idea of not only is business doing well, and business is doing well for WWE, it's doing so much better than the competition is.
And ultimately, the only way to keep that happening is to continue to book good stuff like this.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, yeah.
So,
well, let's get into your alpha chat about this topic. Maybe we'll talk about the Jade Cargill thing a bit later on, although we
should do that at the end. I'll read the article in a bit.
Yeah, we'll cover the deal itself and what it could mean for WWE. But your local metalhead said, "I've loved Dragon Lee since I saw him in Ring of Honor in 2019. I'm so glad he's getting his flowers in NXT last night. He has a style that is so unique to WWE, and I genuinely believe he's a future world champion." Don't know about the future world champion bit, but he certainly is. This episode of Raw, although he lost clean to Dominic Mysterio, who is a joke, was telling you, the audience, we're going to be selling a lot of merchandise with this kid. So get ready, folks, because he is our next he's our next lucha star, the one that we've been searching for since Rey Mysterio, basically.
Write it down. We have our first argument for the course of the show. We'll come to later on when we do the Dominic match, because I think this was the moment he stopped being a joke for me.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we'll come on to that, because I was only just saying that.
No,
that was an offhanded comment.
I
actually thought Dominic should have won. So
yeah,
well, we'll come on to that.
Kid
Cuddy here says, Luke, I'm so happy you like this Raw, to be honest. I was wondering how you were going to find a way to make it a 2 out of 3 out of 5 show while I was watching it. This is the type of positivity I like. Way better than crapping all over it just to sound cool. Much love. I'll be like,
Luke has never tried to sound cool in his life.
If anything, I'm the furthest from cool, and any desperate attempts I would have to try and sound cool would be met with much laughter. Kid Cudi, honestly, like, I know you UltraChatting a lot, and I really do appreciate it. I don't crap on things to sound cool.
Yeah,
I just say if I like something or if I don't. That's all I'm doing, bud.
No, that's the thing, and that's all any of us do when we sit in the chairs and review these shows.
If you watch an AEW show, I'll like things and I won't like things. You watch a Raw review, I'll like things and I won't like things.
Yeah,
I really, and I'm trying so hard not to swear here because this winds me up so much. I really reject this idea that Luke hates everything in WWE and Luke loves everything in AEW, because you clearly haven't watched a fucking podcast.
Well, this is it.
If you genuinely believe that, you have not watched or listened to a podcast.
How many times have you and I sat here, and I the answer is loads, and just raved about stuff that we've loved on? And the thing is, Raw is a 3-hour-long show, right? So there's stuff in there there's stuff in this episode of Raw 9.27 that I thought was bobbins, right? But it was still, and the stuff in shows that I've loved that you've not liked, shows that you've loved that I've gone, yeah, I don't really know how I feel about that. It's just a subjective response to a subjective medium. There's no wrong answer. No one's right, no one's wrong. The only sounding cool is the attempt to try and appear superior by having a taste, and you just don't get it because you're not that. And which hopefully, and I feel as a person who watched this show and now sits in the chair, that's not what we do here. We're not about trying to piss on anyone's chips.
No, if you disagree with an opinion I have,
yeah,
that's absolutely fine.
Crack on.
Like, I'm not going to be angry that you have a different opinion than I have, nor in the same way that I think you should be angry that I have a different opinion on a segment that you like.
Except when you say The Miz is anything less than 5 stars.
But he is broadly fine. Oh. But he was very good on this show. We'll get to that.
I think The Miz going to broadly fine is, like, I've done some good work.
He's always been broadly fine.
My next step is generally fine. And then I'm going to put a goal out there. Let's see if we can get there, guys. By Christmas 2024, Luke's going to say that The Miz is good.
Hey, well, that is good. I've also said he is good.
Yeah, you have.
2.5 stars, good. 2.75 quarters, good.
Luke giveth, Luke taketh away.
Will Campbell here says, hi guys. The main event of the brawl afterwards was absolute madness and I loved every second of it. Also, I know the gimmick is that Dom is massively protected by his faction, but he has matches that are great. Also, Dan, nice to chat with you yesterday.
It was lovely to chat with you as well, Will. I really enjoyed our conversation. I'll save it for when we talk about Dom, because I'm getting a bit evangelical about it. But I think he's proper good.
Streamlabs have had an issue and we have lost our username here, so I do apologize for that.
I fully just thought that was the username.
I mean, it might be.
Yeah.
Streamlabs issue with name that's donated $5 to say, since WWE hasn't announced War Games for Survivor Series, how would you feel if we watch Raw on Monday and they announce the match for Fastlane? Well, that's kind of the point I was bringing up. We don't know that it's a War Games build.
Yeah.
It could just be an 8-man tag at Fastlane, which I wouldn't be against, really, so long as they move on to something else the night after Fastlane.
Yeah,
because if we get out of Fastlane and it's Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn versus Dominic and Damian, I'd be like, well, what was the point of the show then?
Yeah, I mean, there's also there's a world where we still do War Games, and it's a different combination of people. We don't know the answer to these questions. There might be a women's War Games. It could be, who knows? So yeah, I think it was probably around the same time you and Streamlabs issue with name both had a joint moment of clarity where I was like, well, hang on, it is just fast. If it is just Fastlane, I'd almost rather that. Because
Me too. Well, yeah.
There's Night of Champions, so there's 2 pay-per-view builds. It's not just a long period of time to build to War Games. There's 2 pay-per-view builds.
Crown Jewel in there, yeah.
That one, yeah. What did I say?
and Night of Champions, which was the last Saudi show.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah, we've got Crown Jewel on the 4th of November, so we have got another show there. And Captain Vexes here says, love the content, but I wanted to point out that you've basically sold out All-State Arena with a one-ring configuration. So for them to add a ring for War Games, they would have to refund a lot of tickets.
That is a really interesting bit of perspective.
That is very interesting.
Perhaps that's why they announced it ahead of time, so that they could set up the...
Yeah, because that's the other thing as well.
That's
I saw something like, what if you just do a War Games episode on Raw? It's like, we do have to alter the seating arrangements.
I wonder if you... I'm sure there's a way to do it. Surprise, but yeah. Unless they do the 3-tower Doomsday cage match from WCW.
Let's hope. This show opened with Cody Rhodes. Do you want me to do my apology again now?
Yes, because Chelsea Green, not on the show.
Please.
Chelsea Green,
Thank you.
not on the show, live tweeting the whole thing. Thoroughly entertaining read if you want to go back and get a new bit of piercing analysis from one of the, I would argue, the top stars. I don't know why she wasn't on the show. I think she's had a day off, but she was live tweeting the whole thing. It was very entertaining. Pointed out Cody's threads, which just looks handsome in a suit. We love to see it. Is one half of the women's tag team champions. So that'll give us a segue into your groveling apology.
So I talked about this on yesterday's Collision podcast, but if you did not see it, that on 3 counts, I made a joke about the Alba Fire and Isla Dawn placing a curse on the women's tag titles because 2-3 weeks ago you had made this
groundbreaking genius,
groundbreaking genius
fantasy booking
I would
pitch.
say, a bit of fantasy booking to say that they've placed an actual coach because they're actual witches.
They're witches,
and we all had a good giggle about it. The live chat and I had a good giggle about it, and we all thought it was a very, very good and funny idea. And then since then, we've just been talking about that as if it's an idea, or making it just like, well, those belts are cursed. The witches put a curse on them. Yuck, 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 yuck. And in doing so, sort of just convinced myself that was all part of WrestleTalk lore now. Forgetting that the podcast and main channels often had different audiences. And I realized this when I woke up on Saturday morning and everyone was tweeting me or sending me Instagram DMs being like, you got another prediction right on 3 count. And I was like, oh no, they think that's my idea. And it was not my idea. It was Dan's idea that we have all just sort of like all joined in on because it was such a good idea. But the genesis, the start, the beginning of McGillicuddy
from this moment
came from your massive brain.
I want to be clear, I have a tiny brain, but it specifically works. Excuse you. It specifically works for this. This is what my brain is meant for. And also, it's not the first of my fantasy booking pitches that has ended up on television. So, I know you're watching. If you're a member of the creative team, drop us a DM. I'll do it. I'll move there. I'll fix the whole company.
I was going to say, you don't want to be part of creative. It sounds like the worst job in the world.
I run towards all the red flags in all of my life.
I've seen your love life.
Yeah. Hey, I found a nice one. She's good.
She's the keeper.
She's the keeper. It's
spotty at best up until
that point. It's our anniversary today.
Is it really? Oh, congratulations!
Thank you very much. But yeah, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, being a pair of witches who put a curse on the tag team belts, is a genuinely spectacular.
It's very fun
piece of. And I'm thrilled that they picked it up and used it, and I can't wait to see what you do with it. Don't F it up. Because I'll come for you.
I like this person here. They just said, Luke just told the joke louder.
Yeah, literally. But also, this has happened to me before. I once had a series on Vine. Do you remember Vine?
Oh, yeah, I remember Vine.
I did a bunch of Vines of like a song but sung by a northern person. So, like, for instance, I'm on tonight, you know me hips don't lie, and all that stuff.
We used to, my cousin's showpiece was to do Ice Ice Baby.
Great.
As someone from Wigan.
It's just a funny bit. And then my friend / housemate took it and turned it into a bit on Radio 1 and didn't credit me.
What?
So I have previous with it. And I if there's you know many things about me. You're one of my closest friends. You should know I hold a grudge. It will come back to haunt you, much like the witches. Desk. Oh, my big book of grudges. Yay high.
It's going to be the name of your autobiography.
It's just a list of people.
Anyway, this show opened with Cody Rhodes. As I mentioned, they're talking about, this place is sold out and they were showing it. It was very it's a good business thing to be like, we're selling out buildings, which they are doing a lot of. But also hey, take that AEW. But it also felt a little bit like they used to do this during the Monday Night War. It's a sold out show.
Yeah.
Pay-per-view buy rates. They used to talk about during the Monday Night War on Raw and on pay-per-view, used to talk about the ratings and used to talk about buy rates and talk about ticket sales. There was a time in WWE when they used to talk about the gate that they were doing. This is how much money we've made at the gate today, folks. Because they were in a war and they wanted to sound bigger and better than the competition.
And it does that reverse psychology thing of making you feel like you want to be a part of it. Well, all those people bought a ticket. It's got to be a hot ticket. I'll make sure I get one.
I've got to be part of that.
Yeah.
And you watch this show with this crowd, you're like, I'm going to be a part of that. Yeah. I want to be a part of them. And, he brings up the SmackDown draft that is asterisk soon. It is happening.
It's back.
It's back. It's happening. Adam Pearce says, don't know who it is.
Yeah.
So it's a big old question mark. I think we're just waiting until Cody's finished up this stuff with Judgment Day, and then he'll be revealed as the guy. Because he also then said, we're out of the bottom third now.
And now that SmackDown's coming to the USA Network, they don't have to lose their big star from the USA Network. They can still keep... If he moves from Raw to SmackDown, when that change happens, he'll be on the network, so they'll be quite happy.
And of course, how come the Judgment Day to lots of booze and that. And then Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens came out, and then JD McDonough came out, and then Jey Uso came out, and they had a big old brawl. But I did like that this was, JD McDonough, as you mentioned earlier, kind of convinced Finn and Dom to go down and do this brawl while Damien didn't want to. And then Damien was like, well, now I've got to go and help out because the numbers game. And everyone else gets cleared. So Damian Priest was in the ring on his own with the 4 good guys around him. And he literally was like, Mondays, am I right?
Right? Yeah.
And then he got beaten down, got a stunner, and he got sent to the back. Good guys stand tall. Very fun opening segment.
Yeah, and the note I had here, and this is, well, we've spoken about it already, but it was decently plotted. But we've seen it so often it's hard to care, is what I wrote down, which was the beginning of the show. So to bring me round by the end of it shows how well this show went.
Otis took on big Bronson Reed, and I feel like WWE they do a lot of leaning into the memes.
Yeah, they can kill it.
Like Cody being like, we're not on the bottom of the third anymore, folks.
Did he say that?
Yeah,
I missed that.
Yeah, because it obviously referencing the Paul Heyman.
Yeah, I missed him saying.
Yeah, that was part of his promo. Was we're out of the bottom third now.
I was too busy checking him out.
And in this, Wade Barrett was like, what we got here is a big meaty man slapping meat.
Yeah.
And
Big E must be happy at home.
Yeah, a lot of that.
Yeah.
And it was a big meaty men match, and they did hit each other very, very hard, and Reed won with a tsunami, but I gave it a big old thumbs up because I had a grand old time with this.
Not to be an animal, but I really enjoy the spectacle of 2 giant men having a go at each other.
Yeah.
It was like Gaiju stuff. Is that right? The right word?
Kaiju.
Kaiju.
Yeah.
Godzilla.
Well, they actually did say that Bronson Reed refers to himself as a kaiju.
There you go, yeah.
Michael Cole then had to explain what that meant. But a great time I had with this. Becky was chatting with Tegan Knox backstage and essentially said, it was supposed to be you last week. I even walked past you in Gorilla. So why did Natty have the match? And Tegan was like, oh, I'm very sorry. It was supposed to be me. Got another one.
That was actually quite a good one.
Thank you. Was like, but she, she's a legend, and I respect her as a legend, so I let her have it. And Becky said, "Oh, you come here to me," and then said, "No, you shouldn't allow them to do that." And Tegan Knox then went to speak with Adam Pearce a little bit later on in the show, and Natty walked in asking for another match against Becky Lynch, and Adam Pearce said, well, it's going to be Tegan Knox versus Natty tonight, and the winner will get an NXT Women's Championship match next week with the winner of either Becky or Tiffany from No Mercy this weekend.
Sorry, this is where I started to write, it feels like the power struggle exists on TV. Like, it's like, Becky saying it was supposed to be you feels like a direct answer, a direct, like, at Vince.
Because it was supposed to be, as the reports are from Fightful Select, it was Tegan Knox.
10 minutes before the show went on air.
10 minutes before the show went on air, it was changed to being Natalya.
Yeah, so that, and then, granted Adam Pearce has no internal logic because why should Natty get another shot? She lost. But the sort of make good here, where, as I said a few times on the show, I feel like you can't just have these people either you answer the open challenge and have a really good 5-minute match, as we've seen in Collision and elsewhere, or You show us them on TV in front of a crowd. You give us a bit of their shtick so that we can then buy into them as they start to challenge. And I thought this did manage to achieve that. We'll get into the match in a little bit, but you can only get better by being on TV. That's the one. You can do all the reading and all the practice and all the in front of crowds you can, but there's something about the red light going on and the on-air sign that changes things, and you can only get that experience when that light is on.
Yeah. We then had Tommaso Ciampa versus Ludwig Kaiser, which was also set up
Ludwig Kaiser,
also set up earlier in the day. And so Ciampa basically wants to beat Kaiser because he is on his way to beating Gunther. And this is what you have henchmen for, is for singles guys to beat the henchmen, is to beat the Bebop and Rocksteady before you get to Shredder.
Yeah.
And he beat Bebop last week, so he's going to beat Rocksteady this week, then face Shredder at some point, probably at Fastlane. And what we saw here was Bebop and Rocksteady accidentally cost each other the match because it's a weird choice to make in this. Kaiser won this match.
Yeah.
Like, Ciampa, clean as a whistle, lost this match. But Giovanni Vinci accidentally distracted the referee, and so Kaiser's visual pin was not counted. And then because Kaiser got distracted by Vinci on the outside, Ciampa hit the flash knee and got the win. I don't think I'd be booking my IC challenger to be visually pinned by one of the henchmen to build a title match. I get that you want to try and protect Kaiser and Vinci, but I'm going to ignore all of that because A, it was a fun match, and B, I want to bring up the bigger points of stop trying to break up Imperium.
Yeah.
Why has Triple H got such a boner for breaking up groups?
Not even breaking up, having them not get along.
Just dissension.
He loves a bit of dissension.
Loves dissension within a faction.
Maybe he's projecting. He's got dissension within his family, and so he's like, right, I'm going to try and...
I had to speculate, Dan.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that. I meant he's angry at his dad. In-law.
In-law, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, there's those rumors. Yeah. You said that yesterday, and I went home and looked into it, and it looks like complete nonsense.
I'd imagine it probably is.
But anyway, yes. I found this match to be fine. I think one of our colleagues in another channel has sort of made a point of, like, the bar has been raised, so what was once good is now not good enough. It has to be great. Mm-hmm. Great is the new good. And this match was really good. It just wasn't great. So, especially when I think Ciampa Kaiser, I'm going to have a great time. And it was, like, fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
And then there was a weird visual pin, and then you got the Imperium stuff, which I don't think anyone wants to see, except for maybe Triple H. So, the sort of wrinkle that comes back around when we do the Imperium backstage segment later on kind of gave me a little bit of pause. But, yeah, it was a weird one. This was my check my phone match. Yeah.
Tegan Nox took on Natalya with Becky Lynch out for commentary. Not that she needed to bother. It was 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Nox won with the world's shiniest wizards. So, look, it was lovely that Tegan Nox got on TV.
Yeah.
Because she was supposed to be on TV last week, and you're looking to build her up because she's going to challenge for the NXT Women's Championship next week. Mm-hmm. You can't get over in a 2-minute match. And there's only so much you can do in a 2-minute match that is going to make people care about you in a title match next week.
Yeah.
You have 3 hours of a broadcast. Look how much time you gave to Drew and Kofi later in this show. A match that broadly doesn't mean a great deal. It's it's a lower card feud to kind of like continue this. It's excellent Drew heel turn, don't get me wrong. But I'm just sort of looking at this being like, well, what did this actually achieve? It set a matchup.
Yeah.
And that's all it did. And I don't think that's the, we come under fire. We throw a lot of fire onto AEW for their bad women's storytelling.
Yeah.
And it is bad. And it is really, really bad and really unforgivable. And one of the things that we've often said about AEW is that their argument is, well, the women don't get over it. It's like, yes, because you only give them 2-minute matches. Like, you can't get over if you're not getting the TV time. And the same applies here. Tegan Nox, the fans have been asking to see her, online fans have been asking to see her on TV, but then you just throw in a 2.5-minute match. That's not enough time to get over with and show everyone else why we've been wanting to see Nixon Newell on TV.
Your saving grace for me is that there was a few segments leading up to the match. If it was just the match, we'd have a problem. And I wrote down that this wasn't given much time, which was a shame. I appreciated that there were a couple of segments. Still not good enough. When you look at, you talk about Drew and Kofi, it is all about looking at your 3-hour broadcast, looking at your various segments and going, okay, where can I shave time and where can I balance the time? I'm not saying take 3 minutes off the Drew and Kofi match. saying take a minute off that, take 30 seconds off that segment, have this one be a backstage interview, so that goes a lot quicker than being an on-stage segment. Maybe Miz is already out, so we don't have to do an entrance, and we can find the time to give you a slightly longer match. That's just in the structure of the show. What we did get was, there was some really nice, they opened with a bit of chain wrestling, which is always going to be a tick from me. You need to show us what you've got. When you don't have that much time, you kind of can't do it, unfortunately. There was a lovely spinning uppercut at one point from Tegan. It's showing us a glimpse of why we want to see her. And I would hope that next week we can have a really solid showing from Tegan, and I assume Becky's going to win over Tiffany, and then Tiffany can start her next descent to the next ranks of her career.
Jade's here now. So yeah,
well, there you go.
I feel like it's probably not Tiff.
So it's a great example of it is how many times do people say that Natty was boring and it didn't have very good matches, and then she goes out, she has a long bit of time with Rhea and delivers an absolute thumbs up, nailed on banger of a match.
It's like, I would say it's Rhea's best match since having the belt.
I completely agree, and I think it ultimately is because they were given time, as you say, to your point. The same with the women's match that's going to come a little bit later on. I'm going to say a lot of the same points. It is just about giving them time, and that comes to the production, which has been a problem across all divisions. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not even. Sometimes things go too long. Sometimes things go too short. The women's division definitely gets it in the neck. I was going to say this, and you don't need to tell me that. Like,
this doesn't happen in the men's division.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Backstage, the Judgment Day were hanging out. This is where Damian Priest walked in to yell at JD McDonough that you are not within the Judgment Day. Mm-hmm. You're not part of this group, because that story is still going. Speaking of things that are just still going, Seth Rollins was out for a promo, and Nakamura answered via a video promo challenging him to a last man standing match at Fastlane.
I hate them. The last man standing is one of my least favorite match types going. It's along with I Quit. They just don't work for me. For some people, they really do, and that's not to say there can't be really great examples of them. They just take ages. I don't like them answering the 10 count because it feels forced and stilted.
I just got no interest in this feud,
and that's the thing.
I'm really done with it.
It's the type of match I don't really like. The character. We had a conversation upstairs where we were talking about like least favorite wrestlers of everybody. Unfortunately, currently, Seth Rollins is one of my least favorite wrestlers, which is such a weird thing to say. I get actively uninterested when he's on TV. It's Seth Rollins. He's so good in so many ways, but the character presentation is just making me want to fast forward.
Yeah. Not Kathy Kelly interviewed Ricochet, who was on crutches, who said he doesn't actually care if Nakamura wins the belt next week. He has unfinished business with him.
I beg you to finish this business. Sometimes stories can finish.
Yeah. This was your Aussie Open issue.
The other thing is, this one is slightly different, but it does come ultimately back to the same thing, which is that, like, every person should want to be the champion or win a belt and have a prize. Like, if you're just happy to be there, like, in real life, you can just be happy to be there, and you can just be happy to get to do your passion. And, like, I feel like Dolph Ziggler he just kind of went out and did a show and made his money, kind of thing. But everybody in the context of the show in canon should want to be the champion, right? So Ricochet should be saying, if he wins, I'm taking that belt right off him, kind of thing. It's so easy to say. I think the slight difference between this one and Aussie Open is that they are in a very current blood feud, whereas Aussie Open are saying, like, you beat us last year and we're better now. So, like, whether or not you have the titles, we're going to show you that we're better than we were a year ago. Which felt a lot more to do with the date than it did to do with a feud. Mm-hmm. At least this one is about a feud, but you still should care about the belt.
Feud's a strong word.
Yes, no. I want it over. Finish the story.
Dominic Mysterio took on Dragon Lee next for the NXT North American Championship.
Hour 2 begins. Show picks up big time.
This is where the show picked up, right?
Yeah,
like this, like from here on in, outside of the Nia Jax thing, there's not a bad turn within this. Because this match here was superb.
Oh, yeah.
Dom gets a lot of flack online because the North American Championship has very much been like this workhorse championship where you go out and you do have those 4.5-star matches or those 4-star matches, 4.25 matches every single week on TV, and then you really bust it out when you're on the pay-per-views and stuff. since Dom has won the belt, it's sort of been a bit like when Karrion Kross won the NXT championship, and everyone was like, oh, the work rate's really come down, and now to the point where Adam Cole literally cut a promo on Karrion Kross being like, you're not as good of a wrestler as the rest of us. And I feel like that's where a lot of people come down on Dominic, because he's a good character. Mm-hmm. And I feel that he's got a little bit of and I appreciate that this is not a completely fair comparison, because one is far and away different from the other. But MJF about it. There was a period of time where people were like, oh, MJF's just a good promo. Like, that's all he is. Just like, people love him because he's a good promo. And then you'd have matches like, oh, actually, whoa, what? I didn't know he was this good of a wrestler as well. I feel like now he's at a period of time when no one is surprised by a really good MJF match, because he is one of the best wrestlers on the planet. He's just incredible at it. Plus, he's an incredible promo. Because Dom is this heat magnet for people who really enjoy booing him when he's trying to do promos. They don't, and then he just has broadly fine matches on NXT. People are like, he's just not really that good. People just don't like him. They like to boo him. But then he has a match here, and you're like, oh no, he is good. When he needs to turn it on, in matches like this, which are designed to get Dragon Lee over, he turns it on and got Dragon Lee over so much more than any of his other NXT matches have done with Dragon Lee. Then they've been doing pretty good stuff with Dragon Lee since he's come into NXT. But this here, like Dominic Mysterio, I reckon, has done the best at getting Dragon Lee over than anyone else in WWE. This was spectacular, and this hot crowd as well massively added onto this.
I think it's such a shame that you're saying all these things to sound cool, Luke. I wrote down the crowd reaction for someone who is literally making their Raw debut is all credit to Dominic Mysterio. Like, and I mean the work that Dominic's put in to get those boos. It's the work of Dragon Lee. Obviously, it was impressive. It was a great match. But when you hate Dominic Mysterio the way the crowd hates Dominic Mysterio, that's why they want to cheer for every near fall. That's why they want to see him have that belt taken away. You know, it's all of that. It's the pair of them coming together to create a little bit of magic in this moment. There was a big fight feel from the second the bell rang. Dominic you were talking about like the comparisons with MJF, you know, good on the mic, less good in the ring. Being a good wrestler is about being both. It's all well and good being great in the ring, but if you can't also back it up on the microphone, you know, there's a ceiling for you.
Well, look at the Miz.
Yeah.
Very, very, very good on the mic, bang average in the ring.
There's a balance either way. So if you stretch that out to like action movies, Bruce Willis is one of the best of all time because he could carry off the action star stuff and was a damn fine actor as well. It's both at the same time. It's why people tune into wrestling, because they want to see why people turned on John Cena so much. He was great as a character. He was great as a mic worker, as a promo guy, but he didn't back it up in the ring, and it frustrated us.
I push back on that because his promos were never that good, and his character was one-dimensional.
At the very beginning, it was.
Yeah, the rap stuff was.
Look at the reaction when he won the world title.
Oh, that's what I mean. Because that's coming off the back of the rap stuff. But then they made him into a one-dimensional character, and then the promo work falls off.
I agree with you there. But to bring it back to what's going on here, it's that Dominic has quietly been getting real good. Like, he's been working on his craft. When you are surrounded by it's sink or swim, right? It's you're surrounded by good, talented people, and if you use that as an opportunity to learn and get better, then that's to your credit. If you don't, you're out on your backside. A championship belt in WWE is, the workhorse thing, but it's also a prop. It's a prop designed to get a character over.
There's a lot of belts.
There's a lot of belts, right? So it's there to say this person, it's a reward. There's a reward element to it. You've done some good work. Here's a run with a championship. But ultimately, it is a tool designed to service these characters. And by putting it on Dominic Mysterio, you allowed people to really sort of buy into hating him. And in this match, where Dragon Lee could probably carry most people to a decent match, but to get it to this level of good, Dominic has to be raising his game as well.
Yeah, because I would like, we're giving a lot of praise to Dominic, which is well due, and the kid deserves his flowers here. But I think it'd also be quite hard to go out and have a bad match with Dragon Lee because, this guy was tearing it up with Kenny Omega in AAA.
Famously bad wrestler Kenny Omega.
Famously bad man. He's been having 5-star matches for the last few years.
Yeah.
So it's not like people go like, whoa, hold the kid can wrestle.
No, that's what I'm saying. The guy can have a good match with anybody, but to have a match this good, the other person also needs to be carrying their weight. I think that's the difference. So, the Hurricane Rana of the top rope to the floor, which looked like a Fosbury flop, I loved it. I thought Dom was really, really bumping for it. The crowd kept cutting to the kids in the crowd, and how many of them have watched NXT? This is their first experience seeing Dragon Lee. That's why I'm so heavy putting over Dom in this moment, because he stepped up. And then at the end of the match, when he has won, and he's holding the belt and staring down Lens, I'm like, that's the moment you've moved from being lol Dominic Mysterio to being like, all right, fair play. Good for you.
Wait until see Cody squashed him again. And I'm going to bring up what I said last week. I think that is a bad way to build a title match. I kind of gave it some slack because I was like, well, Dom's a joke anyway. So then you just sort of present him as an actual credible guy here, and I was like, well, that's kind of counter what you were doing last week. Like, you need to pick a lane with Dominic Mysterio. Is he good or is he bad? This is the Carmella problem when she was the champion.
Right?
Is she a good wrestler or is she a fluky champion? Because you can't have it both ways, and they tried to have their cake and eat it. Though I'm not sure what else you're supposed to do with the cake. But I thought that this match was spectacular in the sense of Dom was really good in it. Dom was great in this match. And Dragon Lee got out there and just did his stuff. Because that's what this match was designed to do. Produced by Nick Aldis, by the way, and Sean Dovara.
Yeah.
So this match was designed to do one thing. Get Dragon Lee over in defeat. We talked about this with Ricky Starks yesterday. The idea of getting over in defeat. And Dragon Lee got over in defeat here. No one left this match being like, what a loser that Dragon Lee kid is. He got over in defeat. And you can literally see, like, in 5 years' time, you can go to a WWE show and there'll be loads of Dragon Lee masks available to buy, in the same way that there were loads of Rey Mysterio masks shortly after his debut and he became like this hot star. And since Rey has come in, this company has been looking for their next lucha star. And they have tried, and they have tried, and they have tried, and they've never found that person. I think Dragon Lee's the answer. I feel like this is the guy they finally got. And they've kept the mask on him.
Yeah.
Which is something that they kept smegging undoing with some of the other guys. You know, it's like Andrade comes in, take the mask off him.
Yeah.
It's like, why?
Santos Escobar.
Yeah, it's like, there's merchandise you can be doing there, and they're like, don't forget about that. But keeping the mask on him, that is something that kids can get into because they look like superheroes.
Yeah, that's why they like it in Mexico.
Exactly. So, like, I thought this was all great. Everything about this is tick, 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 tick. This accomplished every single thing you needed to do. I just wouldn't have done the Cody squash match last week because I think that is counter to what you're trying to achieve here.
So to that point, I watched an interview with Karma, Awesome Kong, because I was served a Karma video and I was like, oh gosh, I was thinking about Impact 1000 and Awesome Kong was there, and I was remembering her brief run at AEW, and like, God, that was a frustrating period of time. You know, she didn't really get opportunity, and I was like wanting her experience. So I was watching a thing, and she was talking about how she and Mystico were the first Triple H pet projects that brought in, and it was frustrating. She didn't want to let him down because, you know, he's kind of sticking his neck out for her, and Mystico was the other one, and when Mystico was sort of
really went tits up.
Yeah. So again, there's a little part of me that looks at this as another pushback when I talk about the series of this, the thread in the show of Triple H pushing back at all the things where he's sort of been hemmed in, and no, you can't do that. I'm on Zoom ripping that up and all of that stuff. Dragon Lee's presence on the show in this way felt like a pushback in a weird way. So yeah, just really interesting. So that's where I'm like, the consistency of the booking.
Yeah,
yeah.
But this was all good stuff. We got a recap of Nia Jax's return a couple of weeks ago and her killing the tag division last week. And then Not Kathy Kelly interviewed Owens and Zayn to hype up the main event. They did a good job in doing so, but I wasn't like... It was at that point I was just, a mouthful of curry being like, well, this is still delicious, I guess, but, you know.
I'm out of a pizza tomorrow.
I've been here before.
Yeah.
Or I'd love to have... I mean, I think is, Dan, in my metaphor, I can't. So I'd be there like, oof, I'd love to have a pizza tomorrow.
But you can't.
And then we got this Nia Jax promo with Michael Cole. I am the baddest person in all of WWE. And I showed that 2 weeks ago with Rhea Ripley. She tried to step up, and I squashed her. Raquel Rodriguez also tried to step up, squashed her. Some other people tried, squashed them, because I am the baddest person in all of W. And then Zoe Stark came out. This crowd turned on this promo, something fierce, because it was not a good promo, not delivered well, and trying to they said it 3 times. It's their new thing. She's the baddest person in all of WWE.
When we think about the genesis of McGillicuddy and all the people who fell on their little bottoms in the old NXT when they were given promo time, or when people have, or I'm going to get something over with my good lucha thing, like I'm so excited to share my good lucha thing. So often people do, fall apart. So you can kind of understand why they write a script and hand it to you. But acting is actually hard. Just going to put it out there. And it all feels quite rote, and it all feels quite regular, and it all feels like there's a stock delivery. And Tegan knocks at it earlier on in the show. In many ways, I've seen Ricochet have it as well. Just
Ricochet's bad.
They come out
the highlight,
and I'm gonna deliver my lines. And there's a pause here for me to emphasize, and it just doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like there's a you look at Kevin Owens screaming his face off. You look at Becky Lynch when she gets in there and she's really going for it. Like it's an art to do a promo, and it's one that Nia Jax is quite good at nattering onto herself. So maybe just let her stop trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah, this promo did not work.
No.
And then Zoe Stark came out, and I quite enjoyed the little brawl that they had. I thought Zoe had some really good intensity, and then it was squashed out of her in another 2-minute match with Nia Jax.
Quite literally, I did gasp when Zoe lifted Nia. There was a moment in the match where Zoe sort of gets Nia up, and I did, because I'm basic, go like how exciting. But yeah, the match, such as it was, happened.
Do you want to know what my problem is? I realised.
I'm so confused what we've been doing with the past hour.
I realised this watching this match. I was like, why isn't this Nia thing getting over? And, there's lots of reasons that one could label against why this Nia thing is not getting over. History being a key one.
Mm.
Her finishing move just looks rubbish.
What is it?
Her Yokozuna splash thing out the corner.
Yeah, it looks rubbish.
You go back and you watch Yoko do that move. He just sits on you. Like, he'll just squash the hell out of you, and your skeleton just shoots out of your mouth. Nia Jax basically just jumps down onto her feet and then gently sits down. It just looks so unimpressive. And it's
trying to keep them safe.
It's supposed to be like a visually cool thing, but it just looks like no one looks like they get her off of it in a kayfabe sense. Better have just been giving her the Samoan drop.
No, her Samoan drop does look pretty good. Her the way she walks around the ring, the way you carry yourself as a bigger wrestler, as a big person, is so crucial to getting that over. She just sort of saunter around like me when I go to Sainsbury's local in the morning because I've run out of orange juice. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of how she walks around the ring.
She actually does something similar. Like if you've gone to a Sainsbury's you've never been before.
Yeah.
And it's not the biscuits, the bourbon biscuits aren't quite in the same place. So you just walk down the aisles and you stop and sort of look to your left and look to your right. They're not there. So you carry on walking.
She's not in a hurry, is she?
No.
Yeah. So it's something of a lack of intensity, I think. There are moments where it shines. I'm like, there's a reason why I think you've actually got something. You're right, I don't think that finisher is it.
Byron interviewed Jey Uso, who said he doesn't want to join any group.
Can I give you my little nitpick now?
But I'll just finish the segment. But he is going to be part of Team Good Guy, I guess. And that's when he said, I'm going to be keeping an eye on Judgment Day tonight. Dan, the floor is yours.
This is a nitpick. I get called the king of the nitpicks by certain people who don't watch the whole show. This is a nitpick. A negative criticism is not a nitpick. This is a nitpick. I hate it when people have their own personalized name bars. It really gets on my tits. I just don't like it. Why has Zoe Stark got her own name bar, but The Miz doesn't? Why is Drew McIntyre? No, he doesn't.
Do you not?
No, he comes out and it's the Raw branded name bar.
Oh.
AJ Styles doesn't. Cody has one. Jey has one. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens don't have one. Zoe Stark has one. Trish doesn't have one. Becky doesn't have one. Who picks this? Why can they not just give them? Why have they got personalized name bars?
I've never actually said this on the podcast before. I hate the personalized names.
I hate them.
I really don't like them.
Just a little Raw logo that says Zoe Stark. That's all I need.
It really kiddifies the show.
It really kiddifies the show.
Because what it does, what they've done is they've taken the monster truck methodology of just like, you have a logo and the logo is on the screen. And I've always thought it makes it just everyone look a bit cheap and just look like toys.
I don't mind a logo. I buy merchandise with the logo on it.
Logos are very different.
Yeah.
I'm wearing, a logo-based t-shirt today. I'm wearing my Chris Brooks t-shirt because I'm actually cool.
You're not trying to sound it. You just live it.
No, I'm not trying to sound cool now. I'm a fan of Chris Brooks. Get over it, everyone. I'm just cooler. I'm just cooler than you.
Better than you.
I'm just better than you because I know who Chris Brooks is and I like his work.
I don't like the person.
I bought this at a Rev Pro show at York Hall because I'm cooler than everyone.
I'm like mildly irritated by the fact that Jay's colour was red when he was on SmackDown. It's blue now. He's on Raw. That's got on my tits as well. I don't like it.
Oh my tits.
It really, really grinds my gears. That's a nitpick. Write it down.
That's a nitpick. I saw someone in the chat earlier, like just sort of making fun of this whole thing of like I'm trying to sound cooler. Just like, it's just Luke loves actual rubbish in AEW, and I was like, yeah, ironically, the Team TNA stuff. I think anyone watches my praise of Team TNA thing. I was like, oh, man, Luke's being deadly serious.
No, I see the little shrine you have to Karen Jarrett upstairs.
Anyway, next up, this was awesome, right? No pun intended.
They saw my eyes light up just now because you did it. You said the thing.
MizTV with Drew McIntyre. They advertised this, and I went, all right, I guess. And then, it's usual standard MizTV affair. It's not very good. And it's Miz trying to stir the pot and trying to be like, he said Drew McIntyre's name in a Scottish accent. Bad comedy. Then thankfully the New Day came out and started to like bring the segments into a bit more like cohesion. They did tease the idea of Drew going into a program with Cody, which is a big thumbs up from me. But bad comedy, and I was like, oh, I'm quite tempted to look at my phone over here now. Well, what is going on? How many likes has this photo got on Instagram? And then the New Day came out, and the New Day brought this segment to life because they wanted to challenge Big D, which is what they called Drew.
Yeah.
But they said, like, last week I thought you were actually a bit limp last week. It was a bit of shrinkage last week. And the reason for that is because they were like, why? I know you've got beef with Jey. We've all got beef with Jey. We've got our issues with Jey, but that wasn't cool. You let him get beat down last week. You could have gone back and helped, and you didn't. And Drew's response to this, which was, absolutely bang on the banana here. So it's one of those great arguments where both people that are having this discussion were completely right. Yeah. New Day were right in what they were saying about Drew, but Drew responded being like, you guys were backstage and you didn't help out.
Drew has a point.
Like, where were you? I'm not Batman. Yeah. Like, my job isn't to save people. Also, like, Jey Uso.
Yeah.
Like, that man ruins my life for a period of time. In the same way that the Usos ruined your life for a period of time. Like, shouldn't Woods have beaten Xavier Woods if it wasn't for the bloodline? And they just had this back and forth where they were both making excellent points. And it was brilliantly, perfectly punctuated with some comedy because the Miz kept trying to pipe in and make himself part of this storyline, which he is not a part of. So Drew would then just kept going, shut up, Miz. And so Miz would then go down. And then he would respond to the New Day again. So Miz would try and pipe up, shut up, Miz. And then Miz would be like, oh, okay. And this, that, and the other. And then eventually Miz tried to do his little catchphrase. And Drew just headbutted him in the face. When my hand goes up, your mouth goes bang in your face. And Miz just dropped like a sack of spuds. And it set up this match between Drew and Kofi. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Loved all of this. This is how you use the Miz. Comedy doofus goofball who thinks he's part of the main event but is not. That's the Miz.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's one of the greatest of all time, as you've been saying. Shut up, Miz. Got a chant. Go. I'm sorry. Just is. It got a chant, and he didn't even have to do anything. I love him. I loved this segment. There's a section when we do the match where I'll bring us all the way back through to this thread that was weaved right the way through it. I just love that everyone had a point. I just love that everyone was right. When your baddie is right, you don't have to agree with them. You don't have to think that they are. It's this whole like politics idea. We used to debate ideas around the facts, right? And now we debate ideas, whether or not we both. No, now we debate facts, right? It's like, no, that's an alternative fact. That's a whole politics thing. Here, the fact is Jey Uso was getting beaten up, and neither of them saved him. And they're opposing ideas of how to respond to that fact. That's what brings the conflict, and that's what's so engaging. I just loved this segment loads. Drew looked great. Like, he looks like he's really ready and leaning and ready for this new character.
Character's working, man.
It really is. And then just, yeah, I was ready for him to batter The Miz, and he did, and it was brilliant. And then it led us to a great match.
Yeah, I thought every single person in this segment really brought it, and I think it got both.
Especially
what I really liked about this was it was tying feuds together. Sometimes within wrestling, you can feel like person A is feuding with person B, and person C is feuding with person D, and neither the two shall mix. This segment and the match that came after it tied a lot of threads together. Was like, no, this is all just like one big connected universe.
Just so it doesn't sound like I'm copying Luke, that's exactly what I've written down. It's so true.
It's Leonardo DiCaprio just pointing at the screen being like, oh, it's like they're all together.
Yeah.
Like, it's the MCU. Like, everyone is under the same umbrella.
You've got Drew, Miz is talking about Drew and Cody, then you've got Drew and the New Day, and then the New Day and the Viking Raiders, and then
Jey Uso.
You've got Imperium with Ciampa, but also Imperium with the Alpha Academy. There was a bit in the Attitude Era where Steve Austin came out and looked at Sable, and I always think of that image in my head where I'm like, oh, everyone works together. There's something about everyone being in the same environment that, of course, there would be crossover. You wouldn't have A and B and C and D, and now it's this segment. I love it.
I love it. And I thought using these segments to like merge a lot of feuds, not together, but just like connected, was, I thought, really, really smart.
Like some bunting.
Yeah, like a lovely bit of bunting I had up for my kid's birthday party the weekend.
There you are.
If I may do one slight nitpick on this segment.
Wouldn't be me.
And this is a complete nitpick I appreciate. At the start of this segment, Drew came out in his gear.
Yeah.
And Kofi came out in his gear. And The Miz, during the MizTV segment, said, you've got a match with Kofi Kingston coming up. So then when Drew headbutt The Miz and he started mouthing up against Kofi Kingston, Michael Cole said, are we going to have a match between Kofi Kingston and McIntyre? I was like, yeah, yes, dickhead. We've already established this.
I wasn't listening to him.
Drew's in his gear.
Yeah.
Like, use your eyes, Michael Cole.
Yeah.
Nitpick. Anyway, we'll talk about the segment that came in between this, because we'll just go straight into the match. Because Kofi's new gimmick is, I'm going to have the banger of the week.
Yep.
And he did again. And this match was really, really good. It was given loads of time. It really got over with this crowd. And again, tying all of these narratives together, Ivar of the Viking Raiders comes out and he batters Xavier Woods at ringside. Brilliantly so. Kofi, and it's not a distraction spot, which is what I love about this. Kofi looks like he's about to go now. Drew clocks what is happening. He sees what is happening at ringside, but he is focused on Kofi, who is down. Kofi goes to get up to help him Claymore, because Kofi took his eye off the ball. Drew's not Batman. He's not here to help people. That's what we were establishing in the promo segment beforehand. And he got the win in the end of it. And then, as Ivar continued to beat up the New Day, and he was beating up Kofi Kingston in the ring, just like he did last week, Drew walked up the ramp, stopped, paused. I'm not Batman. I'm not here to save people. And he walked to the back. It's none of his business.
Yeah. Also, there's two at the New Day, only one of Ivar. So really, there's not even a numbers game.
Yeah, and Kofi beat him last week. And then Ivar did his moonsault, the spectacular moonsault that he
Bored
does.
of big men doing moonsaults now.
2 in 2 days. It's a Tika Dan sack. But yeah, I just thought all of this segment, genuinely, like on any other show, Dragon Lee and Dominic Mysterio would be like the best thing going. But I honestly think this might have been my favorite stuff on the show. This whole this talk show segment behind and the match. I loved all of this.
It was tremendously effective. It was so well put together. I can't say any better. Which is yummy.
And we did have a backstage segment with Maxine and Chad trying to make Otis feel better after his loss. And Kaiser walked up and they basically were just letting you know that Chad Gable still got his eyes on Gunther. Probably
Just
would have,
like Kaiser has his eyes on Maxine.
Yeah, I wouldn't have had Chad lose last week then. And then Gunther shouted at Kaiser and Vinci because Triple H is intent on making this team have dissension. And Gunther tells Vinci that Kaiser is now tells Kaiser that Vinci is now his responsibility. And if there's a problem with Vinci, that means there's a problem with Kaiser. People might be able to fresh my memory in the chat. Didn't we just do this with the Bloodline? Well, I say just, we did this about this time last year. Wasn't this the story with Jimmy and Jey or Sammy and Jey?
It's familiar.
Like we
I can't remember when, but
I feel like it's Sammy and Jey where Roman had told him, was like, you need to keep him in line. He's your responsibility now. I'm just saying we've trodden this ground before.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's only compounded because stop trying to break up Imperium.
Yeah, no, completely. I think I almost do like the little... There's something about Imperium having a fight with each other, which to me, it's like a dojo thing in my head. I think that's why I'm not so... and I just don't imagine them breaking up. They probably will, and I'll be completely wrong. But there's something in my head that's just like, oh, it's just this expectation from the ring general, and they kind of have to fight amongst themselves to get better and be stringent, and they're miserable and European. So, like, it's whatever. But, you know... It is. You're dead right. It is a rinse and repeat of a previous storyline.
Yeah. Stop putting dissension in Imperium.
Nobody wants to see them break up.
No,
we just quite like them.
I don't need it.
They haven't had a tag run yet. I want it.
Yeah, I don't need this. Thank you very much. And then hilariously, Byron Saxton. It's the last thing we get to talk about here. Byron Saxton interviewed Ivar and Valhalla, who said literally nothing.
It's weird seeing them walk backstage because I think in my head, they just sort of phase from their yurt in Alaska where they live and into Gorilla every week, and then they go back. Like they don't walk. They're not. I can't really picture Valhalla in catering. Do you know? Imagine if you remember the Minotaur on that episode of Raw. He's just walking backstage, does an interview. Yeah. Like it's just weird. It looked weird. It was odd. Yeah. But you know, the eyes are doing something. All right. Sure.
So, again, man, he seemed really cool last week, and then
whatever.
Yeah, really did their best to try and ruin some of that mystique.
I will say though, at least, even though we don't have Eric for a while, I assume I don't know what the medical problem is, but at least we still get him. Like at least they're not just being like, all right, your tag partner's away, so you don't get to do anything.
Well, I thought this was an awesome episode of Raw. Genuinely do think this was the best Raw of 2023. You know, there's minor quibbles aside, but man, it was like so good. It was cracking, particularly like hours 2 and 3. Genuinely like brilliant stuff. And I don't know what it was that made this show so great. Yeah, but it was, and it totally worked. And I was writing my review, I try and save like 5 out of 5 for like outstanding. Like I gave this week's Collision 5 out of 5 because I was like, that was an outstanding episode of professional wrestling, and I there was nothing on the show that I loved as much as like the triple threats or like, you know, Jey and Andrade or, you know, this and the other. But this was just like Danielson and stuff. But everything on the show just worked and it clicked. So I was like, well, there was no like, it didn't come out of it being like that was a groundbreaking, outstanding show. So I can't give it 5, but 4.9, like because I want to give this 5, but my own standards I really can't. So I had to do 4, and I was like, 4 seems so harsh. It feels like really unfair.
This is why I've given in. I'm not even doing the sketch. Just a thumbs up. Down from now on, and I'm saying this. I enjoyed it here.
In the podcast version of this is like a thumbs all the way up.
Yeah.
All the way up. Like this is a borderline perfect episode of television.
Did the job really, really well.
Did the job really, really well. Let's get into your remaining alpha chats. Please continue to get them in WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of them above the $5 amount. And Eric Metzloff here kicks off to say, as the Ultra Chats on and off resident Tegan Knox stan, I'm happy to see her on TV again. I just wanted to get the push to the moon that she deserves. We're in the era of the girl with the shiniest wizard. #Tegan all belts.
I'm excited to see her get an actual match.
I think we're a little bit way off from that. Kuzu here says, Dominic Mysterio arrived last night. He held his own against Lee and even won without outside help. The crowd even forgot they were supposed to boo him. He's come a long way from just being Ray's son last year.
I think that's why I got so passionate about it, because it's like when you consider where we were 1 year ago, it's like night and day. You know, it's credit when you knuckle down and work hard. Good for you.
Tirola Marcus says, a bit off topic, but in the Jey Roman storyline before Money in the Bank, both Jey and Jimmy said that Solo should be the new tribal chief, and immediately after, Jey pinned Roman, and at the attack on Jimmy, he said he wants to be the tribal chief was really interesting. Sorry, okay, I need to reread this.
So it's just interesting that Jey and Jimmy always said Solo should be the new tribal chief, but then immediately after Jey pinned Roman, Jey is saying he wants to be the tribal chief.
Jimmy, yeah, he said that Jey pinned Roman, and Jimmy said he wants to be the tribal chief.
And the attack on Jimmy.
Right.
Commas need to be placed in certain places.
I'll be honest, I've gone so off the Bloodline story.
Yeah?
Like, I'm not into it as much as I was. I know it's not even SummerSlam, because I wasn't really into the Jey and Roman feud going into SummerSlam. I think my peak of it is Money in the Bank. Of like, that was where my interest was. And since then, it's just been waning. And Jimmy teaming with Solo at Fastlane against Cena and LA Knight gives me the groaniest of groans, because I literally just watched this man leave this group, and now he's just
trying to get back in it.
Now he's just back in the group.
Yeah.
Like, talk about a character going backwards.
Yeah.
And a story going backwards. When Roman's not there, the story falls apart. Streamlabs Issue has donated to say, stop trying to kill Imperium. If you're going to do anything, just kick Vinci and replace him with Alexander Wolf, who was in Imperium before. So not sure how I feel about Natalya getting a number one contenders match after she lost, but a good show.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Tyrone Kid said, always been a fan, guys. Just want to say thank you, Luke, for your original brilliant idea about Iron and Alpha jinxing the title. Big brain move. Oh, also, hi, Dan.
Yeah. You're in my big book of grudges, Tyrone.
You're just going to write down Tyrone Kid?
Tyrone Kid, yeah.
That Dylan guy says, now I've been enjoying the Seth Shinsuke feud compared to others, Luke, but it just won't happen. Shinsuke needs to win this belt, or that's 2 feuds now Seth has won with an injury, and it won't help the title looking good, Dan.
Thanks very much. I completely agree.
I wasn't sure if that was like, I won't help the title looking good.
No,
full stop. Dan?
It's I'm looking good.
Yeah, it's like, it won't help the title. Full stop. Looking good, Dan.
I agree that it won't help the title.
Nope.
But I also think Shinsuke should have won it last time, not this time, or Finn Balor should have won it. Seth and title is
Balor should have won.
Balor should have won it.
Yeah.
Whatevs.
Roach Senpai says, my main ick with WWE's women's division, and my main ick is WWE's women's division. They need better storylines and new faces rather than the same people. Mainly, I'm fed up of seeing Flair front and center because she hates not having a championship for more than a month. What do you guys think?
Yes and no. Who's in charge? I think a lot more ire is put towards Charlotte Flair than is put towards the people who put Charlotte Flair in the position. You can only do so with all the releases that came last week. A common refrain was you can only do so much with what you're given. Like, you know, they weren't really given a shot, so they get released, and it's like, oh, they didn't really do anything, so weren't given a chance to do anything.
Yeah.
That said, I do completely agree that they need better storylines. There are so many faces involved. Xia Li is just perennially on main event. Nikki Cross is still there. You know,
just doing nothing.
I think they need. I think they just need to be given more time. More time, and I mean more time on television.
I came under quite a bit of fire recently because I did say that AEW's women's division is bad, but WWE's is almost just as bad, if not the same level of bad.
They get away with it because they book more than one segment.
That's exactly
which is damning with faint praise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really what it boils down to. It really is on these, like, there are trackers and people, like very smart people online who do trackers. Like, there are often times when there's less minutes per show of wrestling in the women's division on Raw and SmackDown than Dynamite. And Dynamite's dreadful for women, and as is Collision. And it's just like I took a bit of heat for saying that, but
it's also because a few people have been saying, like, I'm trying to push a feminist agenda and it's ruining everything. I constantly am. You know, all men should go away. That's how I feel.
I'm doing my best, Dan.
I'm not going to sack myself off. Are you joking? No, but like it's a thing that's worth pushing, because for every person, I've said this on X recently, but for every person who says something like that, I'm just going to say it harder, because they're the people who are proving that we need to have this conversation, because the idea that women are less than only exists because you've been told women are less than. The talent in these rosters is there. They deserve to have the opportunity to show us what they've got, because often when they show us what they've got, it's straight fire.
So, let's talk about this now. WWE's women's division, the women's revolution, was a nice little bit of marketing fluff. It was, they were like, hey, guys, women in sports is dead popular now, so we are going to give the divas a chance, and we're going to do this divas revolution that then became the women's revolution, where they brought back the women's championship, and they kind of, spearheaded this around Charlotte, Becky, and Sasha, and things like that. But they also didn't got to a great start, because they were like, you're also just friends, so you're just like different groups of friends, and that's the women's revolution. And then it sort of went on for a little bit, and women were featured more, and it was like genuinely felt like change was on the way, like the winds of change were howling. And then Ronda came in, and the game completely changed. I don't think I'm completely out of line to say the women would not have main evented WrestleMania if Ronda Rousey was not there.
Certainly not with who was in charge of booking WrestleMania.
Yeah, exactly. Becky Lynch, hugely over, was not as important to them as Ronda Rousey was. I even think even if Triple H was in charge, I don't think they'd have main evented without Ronda Rousey there, because Ronda Rousey was very much a Triple H thing. Her first match was against sort of Triple H and stuff. The first segment she even had in WWE was with Triple H. So they main evented WrestleMania because of Ronda Rousey. And then once Ronda's left, it's like, we'll sort of go back to this. And then Ronda came out, it's like, aha, and here's more focus again. There was even talk that they might have headlined WrestleMania one more time. And they got to with Bianca. I think Bianca kind of changed the game a little bit for them as well.
She's massive crossover.
Massive crossover star. But we have seen over the last 6 months, maybe a little bit more, that the effort is not there that once was in terms of the presentation of women. And I think you can almost chart Ronda's lack of care and Charlotte's lack of care within that, and actually Stephanie leaving. Jade Cargill's now coming in.
Yeah.
And they have made a huge song and dance about this for 2 reasons. Number 1, she has got all of the potential to be a crossover star. She has got the look. She has got the charisma. She is the total package in terms of mainstream appeal. You can send her out to she'll be sent out to all the media events.
Oh yeah.
She'll be sent out to all the TV shows because she's incredible. She has just got a presence about her. B, it is someone who AEW puts so much stock into to make a star, and she chose not to stay in AEW and go to WWE. So you want to make a huge song and dance about that, because that's another one over the competition. It's what everyone should do. It's competition. This is a war. Do you think Cargill coming in is going to lead to the same level of change or a similar level of change that Ronda Rousey would have done?
Well, I'll sort of I would extend the brackets of our consideration of this period of women's wrestling a little bit further, given who's in charge of where. Because you're right, 2015, it was a real turning point in terms of women in sports and all that stuff. Anyway, we were all looking at it. This girl can, etc., etc. In NXT, you can stretch it back even further to Paige and Emma, to Charlotte and
they were doing
Natalya.
It well before.
They were doing it well before, which shows to me, I think that's another reason that I've always sat there and gone, I do think Triple H does care about the division. I think he's also the father of daughters in a big way, which is, it shouldn't take having daughters for you to care about women, but sometimes it does. So I'm aware that he has that. Now I've just been reading the Jade Cargill release, and essentially it's yes, I thought you said the spin article, which it's not that. But the ESPN article that basically says, Cargill has signed with WWE. Remains unclear if she'll go straight to the main roster or if she'll go to the NXT. And then it's the profile that they give her, where they make a point of saying she's only been wrestling for 2 years. Her in-ring debut became part of a high-profile mixed tag match with Shaquille O'Neal against Cody Rhodes and Red Velvet. Rhodes was one of Cargill's mentors at his Nightmare Factory in Georgia and headlined WrestleMania 39. So they've immediately tied her with Cody Rhodes. Further on, they've mentioned the TBS title run in this article and said, Florida native is considered a major future star in pro wrestling and beyond. The 5'10" Cargill was a fitness model before wrestling and has nearly 1 million Instagram followers. She played Division I basketball at Jacksonville University. She's dating someone from Cincinnati Reds, and they own a fast pitch team, the Texas Smoke. So it's kind of all. This is ESPN's writing, basically saying that this person has crossover appeal. So I would argue a big name signing like this probably is a statement of intent. I think back to sort of this time last year, Triple H hasn't booked the women's division well. I want to be really clear about that because I don't want it to be revisionist history. We whinged about Damage Control a lot because it was rubbish.
It's not even just the last 6 months, really. It's been since he took over the book.
But, and this is a big but, the time was allotted. I think that's a difference. It wasn't being booked well, but it was being booked consistently and it was being booked high profile. Over time, over the last year, and certainly over the past 6 months, that has decreased in a big way, even with Ronda Rousey on the books. I would be intrigued now that we're in this new company, now that we're in Endeavor, TKO, all of the rest. I would be intrigued if that changes and if this is the first flagpole of a change. I think it possibly could be, but I don't bloody know. I just bleach my hair and sit in this chair and whinge about it, don't I? So I don't know.
It depends, I suppose, on whether or not you take her straight to the main roster. Like if you just like make a statement piece like, you did with Cody, really, which is like he's in this big WrestleMania match against Seth Rollins. He's the big surprise appearance. And like the tying to Cody Rhodes is, a key element here to it, and I think it might be one of the reasons why she's gone across as well due to their connection. He kind of bestowed the Cody Vader to Jade Cargill when he left AEW. It was like, that's the person to give my big entrance to because she is the future of this industry. AEW built an entire belt just for her, like for her to just hold on. She had the big Goldberg run, and it was this, that, and the other. So you could make a really big statement, putting her on the main roster, putting a title on her.
To bring her in, they've spent a lot of money for her to not go to AEW, not stay with AEW. She's clearly weighed up her options and gone. This, because as you say, they've invested all this time in me. They've invested a lot of energy in me. I'm sure she has some form of, loyalty to that.
Well, she said literally a week before she left, I don't want to work anywhere else.
Right. But then you get a counter offer. And if you're going to spend that much money, and I am assuming, I don't know, no figures have been presented.
The fact that she's got this big ESPN article makes me think it's a lot.
Big statement. They're going to invest time and effort into making that investment worth the return.
I think, I'm just thinking out loud here. I haven't really formulated a lot of these thoughts, so apologies for that.
Return worth investment.
Yeah. I haven't formulated a lot of these thoughts, but I'm pretty confident in what I'm about to say. I think she's going to go straight to the main roster. If they've invested a lot of money, which we're sort of speculating that they might have done, as I said, this ESPN article making a big statement about this makes me feel like they have invested. Plus, also, you've got to imagine she was probably in a negotiating war with AEW and WWE. If she is going to be making a lot of money, that's straight to the main roster. Why? Because they just released a bunch of people from NXT who were on main roster money. Like that's the reason why, the reported reason why Mustafa Ali and Dana Brooke got their marching orders is because, well, they were earning main roster money with no plans to ever take them back to the main roster. Now, you could make the argument, well, you can send it to NXT because you have got plans to move it to the main roster. And that's also a potential. I'm sort of formulating this as I'm thinking about it. But I really think you could just put her straight on the main roster, make a real statement piece with her, and use this as your new flagpole of this is where the tide turns. This is where we right the ship and we start to focus. Because if Triple H has a focus and he can build something around someone, he's very good at that. And he can revitalize the entire women's division on Raw or on SmackDown with Jade Cargill.
I also think when you look at her last match on Rampage with Statlander, she reminded us that she's very talented. Like, it's not like duck to water, and she's not. She's green.
She's 2 years in.
She's 2 years in.
That's not a long time to be doing the wrestling thing.
Yeah.
On a main stage as well. Like, she didn't do the indies beforehand. Her first match was literally in AEW.
Right. So, like, it's... And she's had the run with, the TBS title, not loads of attention. It doesn't have to be done immediately. She doesn't have to be on SmackDown on Friday. She doesn't have to be on Raw on Monday.
Give her time in the Performance Center?
Give her a little bit of time in the Performance Center. She probably should relocate there and do some work in there while still being on TV. That's why you have it.
Oh, she's from Florida.
There you go.
So it's not far for her to get to.
Quid in. So
I believe Florida's quite small.
The whole of America. Tiny. Fits on the head of a pin. So yeah, I think it's worth keeping her around, like to allow her to train. You can train and continue to get better. That's why it exists, while being on national television every week, to the point where when you're ready to just go completely in. And again, we are just completely speculating, and a lot of this is coming off the top of our heads. I'm just also thinking, okay, so who else we got? Bianca Belair, who was she's so gifted, never wrestled a day in her life before she signed up for WWE, and it turns out she's insane good.
That's duck to water territory. That's like Kurt Angle levels of duck to water.
That's who you compare Bianca Belair to.
Absolutely.
You've got Rhea Ripley. You've got Charlotte. You've got Asuka. You've got Io. You've got Bayley. Oh my god, I want to watch all of these. Are you joking? Like, there's so much you can do with it. Right, but like we don't have to be. We'll do another draft. When's the next draft coming up? But yeah, I'm looking at it and I'm like, why wait? If you're gonna do this level of big investment, and I want to see it, if this becomes the new Ronda, and they build it around her and they use it to give more time to the women, oh, good, don't care, let's crack on. Yes, do it.
It's come to the point now, like you could easily fantasy book yourselves into circles with this, but you build to her debut match at Crown Jewel on that massive stage, and you can give her the big pyro and ballyhoo entrance.
I guess show off her abs though, but she could do a great cosplay.
You could do a great cosplay with that, and then she's on TV the following week, and you can do some stuff there. Win the Rumble.
Yeah,
and it's maybe it's a bit much too soon, and I would say that is a bit much too soon. But if you're looking to make a statement here, that's what you're looking to do, and that's probably what you would want to do. And it's not like they've built anyone else up to be a potential Rumble winner. So
I don't know if let's play fantasy booking, because I'm like, well, to save that, let's make her the champion, and then whoever as the Rumble can challenge her at WrestleMania, because that way, I don't know. I'm like, there's so many things you can do.
And absolutely, of course, you can have her answer one of Becky's NXT. Yes. Well, okay. As I said, a lot of this is just coming off the top of my head, so I'm just sort of saying things without really formulating thoughts in my head. But here is a pitch that I would make, and here is what I would do. It's a Becky Open Challenge on Raw. Jade Cargill debuts, beats Becky for the title on Raw to NXT.
Yeah.
So you've made the big main roster statement in front of the big main roster crowd with the big main roster presentation, and to developmental you go, spend a year there, bring you back up. When you come back, everyone's like, that's the girl that beat Becky for the title a year ago. And then if Becky's the champion, you can have Jade Cargill come up and be like, do you remember when I debuted in this company and I beat you for the NXT Women's Championship? Yeah. Let's do this again. WrestleMania, bang, on you go.
Roll the tapes back. I said that last week. But yeah, it's a great shout. I think.
Did you say that exact same thing?
I said no. But it's a natural thing to think. I think the idea that like, who takes it off Becky? Well, we could do a Jade Cargill thing at some point, and then it's not a demotion because you can show up on Raw with those belts. We've seen it.
Look at Dom.
Tiffany Stratton did. Look at Dragon Lee.
Yeah.
So like,
someone's just said her first match being against Natalya. Come on, guys.
she'll and then she'll go into a program with the Miz, and then.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very exciting time. It's a very big signing for them as well. We've got a handful of chats left to go here, though. But first, hello, lads. This episode was great. Love the JD Sammy KO match and brawl. Love Seth and seeing this changing of his character to a more aggressive change after losing. Seeds are being planted with, could be JD, could be Judgment Day, and also with Jey, Sammy, and KO dynamic. Love it. Cinema.
That's from Tracy Miser. Thank you, Tracy.
I'd said so.
Cinema.
Some of that's a bit much, Tracy, but I don't disagree with a lot of it. Mayor of Painesville Dan says, hello, you beautiful people. Hope you're doing well. So Raw was a good show, you say. You know what else was? WXW World Tag Team Festival, including the GCW shows they did. Where would we send recommendations for Mark Markuson?
Mark doesn't have email. He's too busy watching wrestling. So he actually prefers you to send him NFTs.
And PowerPackers90 here has been a member for 25 months in a row. Says, Luke, you are a cool dude. Other than your opinions on the Star Wars prequels, they're underrated films.
No,
not sorry. You and Dan are awesome dudes.
They aren't. But thanks.
Yeah, I've softened somewhat on the Phantom Menace.
Crap.
It is, well, I would have told you previously it's a 1-star movie. Now I'd say it's,
1.1.
1.5. Oh. It's a slightly under 2-star movie.
He's getting old.
The pod racing scene is fun. And Revenge of the Sith is a fine movie with dreadful writing and even worse acting, but the lightsaber fight's cool. And Attack of the Clones is an unwatchable mess of a movie. But not as bad as Revenge of the Skywalker, or whatever the hell that movie was
Rise
called.
of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, that was dreadful.
Which is...
I saw that twice in 12 hours.
Ooh, dearie me. That's the worst Star Wars movie ever made.
Oh, I don't know.
And it's
pretty bad.
It's that and Attack of the Clones having a fight with one another for who is the worst of the Star Wars movies. But Rise of Skywalker is a dreadfully bad movie.
See, I usually keep quiet on this because I really like The Last Jedi, and I thought that was an uncontroversial take.
So did I when I saw it.
You know why? Because it's great.
I came out of that movie and everyone was like, man, that was actually, for once, Star Wars tried to do something different.
That's what I'm saying.
And then it was really good. And all of a sudden, it was controversial to say that The Last Jedi was good.
I went about my week like, doop, having a lovely time. I'm sorry, what? Everyone hates me. Okay, great.
Anyway. That's all we've got time for on this edition of the broadcast. WrestleTalk.com will be your place to go for all the latest Jade Cargill news. But until then, press the subscribe button here. Give us a little thumbs up as well. You're watching this on demand. Leave a comment down below. How would you fancy book Jade Cargill? What did you think of this episode of Raw and all that good jazz? Thank you all to our live audience watching. And we're going to end this poll and see what you thought. But again, this is actually much like Collision yesterday. The thumbs up are lower than I thought.
Gimme.
81% thumbs up.
Oh, that's remarkably low.
Yeah.
No. What's wrong with you all? They just don't like agreeing.
Because it's like 16% in the mid.
Nah, this wasn't mid. This wasn't mid. Normally, I'm like, each to their own. This wasn't mid.
I'm really surprised.
I'll just take some decent wrestling, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's what you sound like. Go away.
But we're all entitled to our opinions.
There's no such thing as a wrong opinion with a subjective medium, except those.
And except for saying that the Star Wars prequel trilogies are underrated.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for your time today. We love each and every single one of you.
Tune in for the Wednesday Night War tomorrow.
Yes,
I'm going to crush Laurie.
Wednesday Night War tomorrow. We're going to be live 1 p.m. BST here on partsFUNknown. I'll be here because I'll be reading out your UltraChats.
Fun.
And sort of like managing these two reprobates while they play through my GM mode. Season 3.5, the winner will be joining myself and Pete Quinnell in Season 4 of the Monday Night War when it returns to Monday nights again.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to crush Laurie. You have no idea.
I'm so excited to see what happens. Until then, I've been Luke Owen, DAD. That has been the Professor, the Truth, your Jam That Champion, Dan Layton. Jam that jam.